welcome to Brainware. I am your host, Damian Granger, and with me today are...
Hello, my name is Jorge.
My name is Prakrit Bardwash.
My name is Inaya Cardenas.
And today we will address different types of stigmas. How do we see mental health stigmas within our society today?
I believe oftentimes people undermine the struggles that some have because usually neat people are called OCD and skinny people are said to have eating disorders and moody people are said to have bipolarism, when that's not true because everybody has their off days and they could be moody whenever. And we're overlooking what people are actually going through by saying, oh, you're just being lazy. We're all being depressed and other people have it worse. So that affects us as we're overlooking the struggles that some may have and undermining the importance of mental illness. Hence, I believe that mental illness has a bad context because when people go into the workforce and they apply for jobs and they state their mental illness, they're usually declined, and that can affect how they live as they're not making a currency to live off of. And that can lead them to poverty, which cause even more mental illness and could lead to worse things like substance abuse.
And with that, another common stigma is stigmas that we can find in institutions, which brings the question, how does the stigmas present themselves within our institutions?
So, within our institutions, there are a lot of instances of these stigmas being presented. One large one is government legislation, which tends to disproportionately affect people with mental health struggles negatively. A lot of times, policy has gotten rid of the avenues through which people of lower socioeconomic status have used to get mental health resources. And so what ends up happening is these people of lower socioeconomic status will lose out on this ability to get the help, which turns into a vicious cycle of them not being able to get work, as Hua said, which leads to further worsening of their mental state. Additionally, job opportunities do discriminate against people who are open about the history of their mental illness, which is a blatant violation of Title IX, which was put into law in the early 1980s by U.S. policymakers. However, since then, no efforts have been made by these same policymakers to enforce this Title IX on people who actually do struggle with these mental health illnesses. Finally, our justice system overtly prosecutes people with these mental illnesses, which furthers the overcrowding within our prison systems and only worsens our mental wellness as a society overall.
Thank you, Pakrit. On the same hand of stigmas, people tend to possess their own, which leads us into the question, what stigmas do you think you possess against mental health and how can you fight them?
So yeah, I would like to talk more about that because I have a personal experience I went through. So being the eldest child from my family, I had to go through a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibilities because I was supposed to be the prodigy of the family and be the greatest role model for my younger siblings and my younger cousins. But going through that, it was really difficult because there was a lot of pressure on me and I was thinking that I had to be a straight A student. I had to work, I have to clean around the house all the time, and that was super difficult. And so what I did was that I opened up to my family and told them that I could not be this way because it was so hard. And in life right now, it's very difficult for a bunch of teenagers, which everyone goes through. And so I told them that I could not be who they expected me to be and to be their prodigy because life was so hard. And a lot of teens are going through that right now, and which led me into depression. Depression really hit me really hard, and so I had to be more open, which led into me finding self-love for myself and self-care. Self-love and self-care are very important in our mental health because that is who we really find within ourselves. And if we don't love ourselves, then it's going to be very difficult for us to understand who we really are.
Thank you. To end this episode, I would like to thank our guests for sharing their personal experiences as well as their views into society and institutions. As well, I want to leave you with one last quote. You should fight stigmas one day at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
everyone. Welcome to our Mouching Out for Mental Health. I'm Lei, and my co-host is Jalissa, and our special guests are Melissa, Erica, and Denise. Today, we'll be discussing self-care.
Now, for our first question, what does self-care mean to you all? Starting with Melissa.
Self-care for me is taking the time to really know what you need, both mentally and physically, and doing it.
I would say it's the way one takes care of their physical and mental health. I agree. Taking time to do things that help lifestyle improve both your physical and mental health.
Moving on to our next question. How do you do your self-care? Starting with Melissa.
I like to section out my self-care by my mental care and my self-care. For my mental care, I like to just take a nap and recharge. My self-care is doing what I need in the moment, whether it's eating, catching up on shows, or journaling.
I personally do my self-care by spending time with my cats while watching shows or napping. And I feel like napping with my cat honestly takes all my negative energy away, so when I wake up, I have a positive energy.
A type of self-care that I practice is a little weird, but cleaning my room is a part of my routine because the sense of accomplishment helps me feel better, and a clean room makes space for doing what I love, like watching movies and reading books.
I agree with all those self-care plans. Those are really good examples of what people should do when they're completely stressed out or just need times for themselves, like food or simply just pets. Cleaning your room or cleaning the house, just helping out basically around the house are good examples. And I do all of those except for pets because I don't really have any animals at home.
Lastly, why is self-care important?
Self-care is important because it improves your well-being, which can help reduce stress, increase positive energy, etc. And doing these little things may seem important, but can have big impacts.
Self-care is important to me because I get to create a type of confidence, which may lead me to get rid of all my negative thoughts and create positive ones.
Self-care is important for maintaining a positive outlook on life and keeping myself motivated.
Those are amazing points, guys. This really proves to people that self-care is really important to us, especially students who are simply burnt out from doing their academics or just simply focusing not on themselves, but mainly on schoolwork and only schoolwork and getting their stuff in. Before I end this podcast, I want to thank you, my co-host, Jalissa, and our special guest, Melissa. Before I end this podcast, I would like to thank you, my co-host, Jalissa, and our special guests, Melissa, Erica, and Denise. Before we completely end this, I want to give you all one last quote for you to take away from this whole podcast, which is, negative minds will never give you a positive life. So see you all in our next episode talking about peer pressure with our mukbang. Bye. See you later. Take care. Bye.
Hello everyone, my name is Al and I will be your host on today's episode of Self-Extreme Care Addicts. For today's topic, it is self-care. I am joined by three lovely guests and they're going to be answering some questions relating to our topic. So let's get started. Our first question is, what are some examples of ways you practice self-care?
Hello, I'm Caesar and I would like to answer this. I think one of the main reasons that really I do to improve my self-care is get sleep. Obviously, when you're at school, you get tired and then you're always connecting with others and your friends. So your social battery gets low. And for me, especially with my friends, we kind of get hectic. That really lowers my social battery. So when I get home, I take a good nap, rest up, and feel better. Also, eat. I get really hangry. So when I get hangry, I get really upset or grumpy at my friends or just anybody in general that's in my area. So I need to eat something so I'm not as hangry and I can actually focus in class. So that really does benefit me, especially with classes that really require me to focus. And lastly, just connecting with my friends. Connecting with friends is like a good thing. Like we play games and then we just build up closer bonds.
Yes, connecting with friends, eating, and sleeping. Well said, well said. So our second question is, how does self-care correlate with mental health?
Hi, my name is Asia, and I will be answering that question. So I believe that self-care correlates with our mental health because we are maintaining a positive relationship with ourselves. And by that, we are enhancing our happiness, confidence, and even lowering our stress levels. When we practice self-care, we are being aware of our emotions, surroundings, and needs. By doing that, we are promoting our mental health and worth, which leads to a positive outlook on ourselves. So one example when I incorporated self-care into my life was when I began prioritizing my sleep schedule and my skincare routine. So when I did that, I noticed that my depression symptoms significantly lowered because I started to get a full 8 hours of sleep every day, and my skin began to clear up, which enhanced my confidence.
I like that. Sleep coming up again. Sleep, very important, folks. Very, very important. For our final question, how does self-care affect our relationships?
Self-care, mental health, and our relationships are very intertwined. It is within the strength to better ourselves that we find better aptitude when confronting others or forming relationships. It is with self-care that we are able to better treat ourselves and better treat others. An example of this is recently when I started to focus on sleeping better and becoming more social. I became more productive and I was able to better connect with other people. This actually led to people around me being more energetic and just being more open with me. It's led to them treating me differently because I treat them differently in a more positive outlook. And it's just led to happy temperament overall.
Well said, well said. With that, thank you everyone so much for joining us on this episode of Self-Extreme Care Addicts. I would like to thank my wonderful guests for being awesome and answering all these questions to such a great extent. And before we leave, I'd like to give one last word of advice. Remember to choose your own destiny. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.